We live in interesting times for the headlines. Hong Kong airport cancels all flights, blaming pro-democracy protests for the shutdown as Beijing slammed violent demonstrations as terrorism. Indian authorities have moved around 1 million people into emergency camps in recent days as the death toll from monsoon floods jumped Monday to at least 184. South Korea on Monday put Japan into its own new export category as President Moon Jae-in called Tokyo's latest measures very serious, intensifying a trade war between the two neighbors and U.S. allies. And in need of some comfort food in Japan, they know how to make use of leftover rice, very much like how we Filipinos extend and recook our leftover. Dennis Liu will show us more. I'm Alma Angeles, wherever you're watching from around the world. Thank you very much for joining us, and now to the news. All flights in and out of Hong Kong were cancelled after thousands of pro-democracy protesters flooded the city's airport to denounce police violence. The abrupt shutdown at one of the world's busiest hubs came as the Chinese government signaled its rising anger at the protesters, denouncing some of the violent demonstrations as terrorism. The developments marked yet another dramatic escalation in a 10-week crisis that had already become the biggest challenge to Chinese rule of Hong Kong since the 1997 British handover. At the airport, protesters held signs reading "Hong Kong is not safe" and "Shame on police." Now, they were responding to allegations that police were using increasingly violent tactics to suppress protests. Over the weekend, police fired tear gas into subway stations. Protesters were also enraged at the police apparently dressing in the black t-shirts worn by the pro-democracy movement to infiltrate the rallies and make surprise and violent arrests. Protesters responded on the weekend by hurling bricks and spraying riot police with fire extinguishers and water hoses. A government official said 45 people were injured in the clashes, including 2 who were in serious condition. Among them was a woman who suffered a serious face injury, reportedly after being hit by a beanbag round, with rumors circulating that she had lost her vision in the incident. It was the 10th consecutive weekend that protesters have taken to the streets in a movement that began over opposition to a bill allowing extradition to mainland China. In Beijing, authorities slammed the violent protesters who had thrown petrol bombs at police officers and linked them to terrorism. And we want to show you this shocking footage of riot police charging into a Hong Kong subway station and beating protesters with batons. Demonstrators had staged a second night of hit-and-run rallies, splitting into small groups that scattered across the city to set up temporary roadblocks and face off against riot police. Now, Hong Kong Chief Carrie Lam said no police inquiry needed and they're investigating themselves. Take a look. Now, on Sunday, police fired tear gas in confrontations with protesters in 3 parts of Hong Kong as another evening of clashes began playing out in the Asian financial capital. Take a look. Now, the streets of Hong Kong echo the sound of tear gas being fired into the air, even in the metro, as protesters defy the authorities gathering now for this is the 11th weekend in a row. Police took a harder line to try and clear the streets quicker than before. With protests becoming increasingly heated, now police are facing criticism for their violent tactics. Now, local media and witnesses accusing some police officers of disguising as protesters and striking people before making arrests.
交界就見到一啲黑衫嘅人混入咗入去做一啲嘅打鬥，佢哋身上係攞住啲棍，戴住豬嘴，即係佢哋嘅裝束咧係接近同一啲嘅示威者係一樣嘅，然之後挑起紛爭。我見到嘅就已經係打鬥緊㗎啦，已經係有人俾人搭落地啦，跟住揾棍毆啦，我見到嘅情況係咁樣。我唔肯定嗰個叫係咪警棍，總之係黑色長形嘅，個頭係圓嘅 ，OK。之後咧，啲警察開始捉人啦，但係明明有3個着住黑衫嘅人啦，打完之後咧，警察過去截停佢。咁但係當佢哋喺褲袋拎出一啲綠色嘅熒光棒，揚咗2下，啲警察就放佢走咯喎。咁有警察係扮示威者。係冇錯，絕對係扮示威者混入去捉人。見到冇錯，我見到係3個嘅，但係。
Now, police have arrested more than 600 people since the protests began in June. Demonstrators are facing a toughening stance from Beijing, which is determined to ignore their calls to the resignation of Hong Kong's Beijing-backed leader Carrie Lam. Protesters say they're fighting against the erosion of Hong Kong's semi-autonomous arrangement with the mainland. Now, at the airport, demonstrators were seeking to raise awareness among foreign visitors during a 3rd day of sit-in. They also chartered support for Cathay Pacific staff after the airline fired 2 ground personnel and routed pilots from flying duties a day after Chinese Aviation Administration demanded it suspend employees involved in recent demonstrations. Meanwhile, police in Hong Kong unveiled water cannon trucks as a new way to combat pro-democracy protesters after tear gas and rubber bullets failed to stop more than 2 months of rallies. Take a look. The brand new vehicles, complete with real-time surveillance cameras and multiple spray nozzles, were wheeled out. Now, police have defended themselves as accusations of using excessive force against protesters, and on Monday unveiled 2 water cannons, a method that has not yet been used during the crisis. They demonstrated jets of water from the trucks on several dummy torsos placed at different distances from the vehicles. Hong Kong has reportedly ordered 3 of the vehicles at a cost of 27 million Hong Kong dollars, though police declined to confirm the exact price tag. Police would only use the trucks in the event of a large-scale public disturbance leading to casualties, property being destroyed wantonly, or public order and public safety coming under grave threat, according to Senior Superintendent Chan Kin Kwok, and he told this to lawmakers.
用呢個噴水裝置只會係針對嗰啲暴力衝擊嘅行為，我哋絕對唔會話針對一啲個人即係噴水裝置，人群管理特別用途車嘅噴水裝置，我哋絕對係知道佢有一個風險喺度嘅，受傷嘅風險。其實逢親使用武力都有一個受傷嘅風險。我哋一定會緊記一樣嘢，就係話一定係最低程度嘅武力。
And the news continues here on Eagle News International. We'll be right back. Stay tuned.
white sandy beaches that stay cool to touch even on the hottest summer days, blue-green ocean waves, and the warm ocean breeze. There's no wonder why Dr. Beach is named Siesta Key, Florida, the #1 beach in the United States. Don't forget to watch episodes of Digital Next every Tuesday and Thursday at 7:30 p.m. I'm Melissa Protest, coming to you from Siesta Key, Florida, and I am one with 25.
All right, let's take a look back. Hong Kong pro-democracy protesters hit the streets for the 10th weekend in a row. Demonstrators used fire extinguishers and a water hose against riot police who fired tear gas into the train station in Kwai Fong. And some accused plainclothes officers of disguising as protesters to make arrests. Take a look.
到咗葵芳港鐵站之後，多次去。
佢係咪警察嚟嘅先？如果佢唔係警察，你阻止我問市民做咩咧？佢係咪警察？阿 Sir， 你係咪警察嚟㗎？定係俾你行先？
To other news now, Indian authorities have moved around 1 million people into emergency camps in recent days as the death toll from the monsoon floods jumped Monday to at least 184. The southern state of Kerala, a tourist haven known for its beaches, hill resorts and backwaters, has been the worst hit region for the second consecutive year, forcing the closure of the Kochi International Airport for 3 days last week. Many key highways and roads across the affected regions have been damaged or cut off by rising waters. Local emergency personnel and troops from the Army, Navy and Air Force have been deployed for search, rescue and relief operations. Indian media have also reported 66 deaths in the western states of Maharashtra and Gujarat, with tens of thousands of people shifted to relief camps. While the monsoon rains are crucial to replenishing water supplies in drought-stricken India, they kill hundreds of people across the country every year. Last year, Kerala was hit by its worst floods in almost a century, with around 450 people killed. And a monster storm that smashed its way up the eastern China coast and forced more than 1 million residents to flee has killed several people. Take a look. Footage on state broadcaster CCTV showed fields and streets flooded by muddy water, submerged vehicles, scattered debris and trees blown over as strong winds and rain from Typhoon Lekima pounded cities along the seaboard. At least 16 people were still missing as the storm moved further up the coast near Beijing. Official Xinhua news agency said the toll had risen to 39 in Zhejiang province, where Lekima made landfall on Saturday, packing winds of nearly 190 kilometers per hour and pounding the coast with waves several meters in height. At least 18 of those were killed in a landslide triggered by torrential downpours in Gwangju, state media said. More than 1 million people were evacuated from their homes ahead of the typhoon. Now, Lekima hit Shandong province later on Sunday, where the local emergency management department reported 5 dead and 7 missing, as well as the relocation of more than 180,000 people and damage to 600 homes. More than 3,200 flights have been canceled due to the typhoon, according to the state broadcaster as Beijing, Shanghai, and other cities grounded planes. In Shanghai, meanwhile, more than 90 tourist sites, including Disneyland, were closed ahead of the storm, with most set to reopen today or Tuesday. Myanmar troops and emergency responders scrambled to provide aid in flood-hit parts of the country Sunday after rising waters forced residents to flee by boat and a landslide that killed at least 52 people. Every year, monsoon rains hammer Myanmar and other countries across Southeast Asia, submerging homes, displacing residents, and triggering landslides. But this season's deluge has tested this disaster response after a fatal landslide on Friday in southeastern Mon State was followed by heavy flooding. It reached the roofs of houses and treetops in nearby towns. Hundreds of soldiers, firefighters, and local rescue workers were still pulling bodies and vehicles out of the muddy wreckage of Pawong Township on Sunday. Heavy rains pounded other parts of Mon, Karen, and Kachin states. It flooded roads and destroyed bridges that crumbled under the weight of the downpour. Climate scientists in 2015 ranked Myanmar at the top of a global list of nations hardest hit by extreme weather. Now that year, more than 100 people died in floods that also displaced hundreds of thousands. A huge fire raging on the Spanish holiday island of Gran Canaria has sparked the evacuation of hundreds of people and seen the arrest of a man suspected of lighting the blaze, according to authorities. Firefighters say they're overwhelmed by the size of this fire. Around 1,000 hectares have so far been destroyed in the fire, which erupted on Saturday in the western municipality of Artenara, near the provincial capital of Las Palmas. Some 1,000 residents evacuated overnight have not yet been allowed to return to their homes, according to emergency services in a statement on Sunday. Strong winds and temperatures of more than 32 degrees Celsius or 90 degrees Fahrenheit are hampering efforts to douse the flames. Police said they had detained a man for allegedly starting the fire by using welding equipment. Spain, the world's second most popular tourist destination, is also frequently plagued by huge forest fires because of its arid climate in summer. And staying in Europe, Greek firefighters on Monday brought under control a major forest fire that was threatening homes on the outskirts of Athens. At least 2 houses were burned, but there were no reports of injuries as police quickly evacuated the area and blocked roads. The Civil Protection Authority said the blaze started around 3 a.m. in the eastern suburb of Pienia in the pine-forested foothills of Mount Iemitos. Over 130 firemen were dispatched to the scene to stop the fire spreading to heavily inhabited areas nearby. Fire-bombing aircraft joined the operation at first light. Greece has been hit by a spate of wildfires since the weekend amid gale-force winds and temperatures of 40 degrees Celsius or 104 degrees Fahrenheit. To the U.S. now, Attorney General Bill Barr said he was appalled to hear of the death of disgraced financier Jeffrey Epstein, who was awaiting trial on sex trafficking charges. Barr also said he has instructed the Department of Justice's Inspector General to probe the death's circumstances. U.S. Attorney General Bill Barr has instructed the Justice Department Inspector General to probe, saying it raises serious questions that must be unanswered. The FBI is also investigating outrage and intrigue over the apparent suicide in prison of Jeffrey Epstein soared Sunday as U.S. lawmakers pushed for answers, including whether criminal acts played a role in his death. Epstein, a convicted pedophile who hobnobbed with countless politicians and celebrities over the years, was found dead in his cell Saturday while awaiting trial on federal charges he trafficked underage girls for sex. The discovery came a day after a court released documents in which one of Epstein's alleged victims claimed she was forced to have sex with well-known American political and business personalities. They have all denied the allegations. The New York Times reported Sunday that guards were supposed to check Epstein every half hour, but that procedure was not followed the night before he was found, citing an unnamed law enforcement official. The jail had also transferred his cellmate, leaving him alone, according to the Times, citing 2 officials. Epstein's death in a high-security New York jail, an apparent suicide that came just weeks after an earlier possible attempt on his own life, meant he should have been under close watch and has fueled anger and a conspiracy theory frenzy. Epstein's death quickly raised questions about how he could take his own life despite reportedly being put on suicide watch after his first failed attempt. Epstein, 66, had been charged with 1 count of sex trafficking minors and 1 count of conspiracy to commit sex trafficking of minors. Epstein, whose friends have included President Donald Trump, former President Bill Clinton, and Britain's Prince Andrew, was convicted previously of paying young girls for sexual massages at his Palm Beach mansion. But he avoided Fed prosecution under a plea deal that required Epstein to admit to a single Florida state charge of soliciting prostitution from a minor and register as a sex offender. He served 13 months in a county jail before being released in 2009. Indian authorities are expected to extend the military clampdown in Kashmir ahead of Monday's start of the Eid al-Adha festival on fierce protests could break out over its stripping of the Muslim-majority region's autonomy. Indian-administered Kashmir has been in a security lockdown since last Monday, when India's Hindu-majority government rescinded years of autonomy and gave full control to New Delhi. Officials eased restrictions earlier Sunday but imposed them again in the afternoon amid a tense atmosphere in the main city of Srinagar. Indian Premier Narendra Modi insisted last week the decision to strip Kashmir of its autonomy was necessary for its economic development and also to stop terrorism. Under its previous constitutional autonomy, Kashmiris enjoyed special privileges such as the sole right to own land or take government jobs and university scholarships. With Kashmir now fully part of the Indian Union, Prime Minister Modi said the region would enjoy more jobs and less corruption and red tape, adding that key infrastructure projects would be expedited. Eagle News International will be right back.
And this is Kid Kwento, one of Net25 Kids' online shows. Kid Kwento is now on TV. You can watch us every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 4 to 4:30 p.m. Also watch Anong Sa Inyo with Ate DJ every Tuesdays and Thursdays at 4 to 4:30 p.m. Sa Kid Kwento, ang aming motto ay, let's all read to succeed! Hooray! Kita-kita tayo ha! Bye-bye!
ASEAN in Focus, Monday to Friday, 2 to 2:30 p.m.
Norwegian police say the shooting at a mosque near Oslo is being treated as an attempted act of terror, with the suspect appearing to harbor far-right anti-immigrant views. Take a look.
Det ligger blod, og det er blod overalt på teppene. Jeg ser at det ligger strødd rundt og med hylser. Så da går jeg enda lenger inn i skauen for å få litt mer innsyn i lokalene foran. Og da ser jeg at en av våre medlemmer hadde tatt grep om gjerningsmannen og lagt han ned på bakken. Og i det jeg på en måte kom meg opp på gjerningsmannen, så ser jeg at han har på seg skuddsikker vest, svarte klær, dekket med beskyttelse ned på beina.
Hours after the attack on Saturday, the body of a young woman related to the suspect was found in a house in Beirum. Investigators are treating her death as suspicious and have opened a murder probe. On Sunday, police confirmed that the deceased woman was the suspect's 17-year-old stepsister. The suspect entered the Al Noor Islamic Center on Saturday afternoon, armed with multiple weapons, and opened fire before being overpowered by a man who suffered minor injuries in the process. Only 3 people were inside the mosque at the time of the attack, and police said they recovered 2 firearms from the scene, but they didn't specify which type. The Al Noor Islamic Center in Norway shares its name with the worst affected mosque in the New Zealand attacks. Norwegian media reported that the suspect was believed to have posted on an online forum hours before the attack. The post seemingly praised the gunman who killed 51 people in mosques in Christchurch, New Zealand earlier this year. The post also made references to a race war. Muslim organization Islamic Council Norway described the attack as the result of a long-lasting hate of Muslims that has been allowed to spread in Norway. Official estimates from 2016, some 200,000 Muslims lived in Norway, which has a population of about 5 million. Almost 50,000 opposition supporters rallied in Moscow Saturday at one of the largest protests since President Vladimir Putin's return to the Kremlin in 2012. Protesters crowded the central Prospect Andrea Sakharova Street, where city authorities deployed a massive police presence, including officers in riot gear, after giving permission for the rally to go ahead. The White Counter, an NGO that tracks participants in rallies, counted 49,900 people, while Moscow police gave a much lower attendance figure of 20,000. In recent weeks, thousands have attended street protests calling for free and fair elections after the exclusion of several opposition figures, including allies of top Putin critic Alexei Navalny from local Moscow polls next month. Riot police and the National Guard detained more than 2,000 at the previous 2 rallies, which were not authorized by city officials, and a dozen protesters face criminal charges of mass disorder. Most opposition candidates who have been banned from participating in the vote have also now been jailed for violating protest laws. One of the rally speakers was the wife of opposition politician Dmitry Gudkov, who is serving a 30-day sentence. In other news, President Trump on Friday defended controversial mass raids that led to the arrest of 680 undocumented migrants in the southeastern United States, saying they were an effective way to thwart illegal entry into the country. The raids, which took place at 7 chicken processing plants scattered across 6 Mississippi cities, were the largest in a single state in U.S. history. Take a look.
But I want people to know that if they come into the United States illegally, they're getting out. They're going to be brought out. And this serves as a very good deterrent. If people come into our country illegally, they're going out. They're not coming in illegally and staying. We have bad laws. They may get in, although we're being very tough, but they may get in. But it doesn't matter because they're going out. And when people see what they saw yesterday, and like they will see for a long time, they know that they're not staying.
Local media showed images of confused children crying after coming home from school and finding themselves with nowhere to go and nothing to eat after their parents had been detained.
My dad didn't do nothing. He's not a criminal or something. That's why the immigrants took them. Please let him free. The governments, please put your heart. Let my parents be free with everybody else, please. Don't leave the child with cryiness and everything.
Of those detained, 300 have been released with ankle monitoring devices and instructions to appear before an immigration court judge to determine whether they will be deported, according to officials. Matthew Albans, the interim ICE head, said the raids were the result of a year-long investigation. He said that the children of detained parents will be sent to live with relatives or other families. Some of the migrants will be released with electronic ankle monitors as they await a court hearing. North Korean leader Kim Jong-un supervised a new weapons test. State media reported the latest in a series of launches that U.S. President Donald Trump has played down as Washington seeks to restart nuclear talks with Pyongyang. The report, carried by the Korean Central News Agency, followed President Trump's comments that Kim had expressed a willingness to meet once the U.S.-South Korean exercises are over and apologized for the slew of missile tests. Saturday's launch was the North's fifth test in 2 weeks as it protests the annual military drills underway between Seoul and Washington, which always angers Pyongyang. Defense officials in Seoul said Pyongyang fired what appeared to be 2 short-range ballistic missiles Saturday, flying 400 kilometers before splashing down in the sea between the Korean peninsula and Japan. KCNA provided no technical specifications but said Sunday they were a new weapon developed to suit the country's terrain condition. In a statement issued by KCNA on Sunday, the North's foreign ministry also said the South's refusal to cancel its joint drills with the U.S. had effectively scuppered any prospects of future talks with Seoul. On Friday, the U.S. president said he agreed with Kim's opposition to the war games, albeit for financial rather than military reasons, and indicated the missile launches were not important.
With that being said, I got a very beautiful letter from Kim Jong-un delivered. It was hand-delivered from, and it was a very positive letter.
What did he say?
I'd love to give it to you, I really would. He gave me a great letter. I would love to give you, but I don't know, I don't think it would be appropriate, but it was a very personal letter. It was a great letter. He talked about what he's doing. He's not happy with the testing. It's a very small testing that we did, but he wasn't happy with the testing. He put that in the letter. But he also sees a great future for North Korea. And so we'll see how it all works out. In the meantime, I say it again, there have been no nuclear tests. The missile tests have all been short-range, no ballistic missile tests, no long-range missiles. We got back, and we're getting back as we speak. We're getting back a lot of our fallen heroes, you know that. They're coming back into and through Hawaii. And we got back our hostages. No, he wasn't. He wasn't happy with the test, the war games. The war games on the other side with the United States. And as you know, I've never liked it either. I've never liked it. I've never been a fan. You know why? I don't like paying for it. We should be reimbursed for it. And I've told that to South Korea, but I don't like it either. But I said, do this, because this was a big test. This was a turnover of various areas to South Korea. I like that, because that's what should happen.
The hunt for a Franco-Irish teen who disappeared from a Malaysian resort stretches into a second week, with hundreds of people scouring the jungle.
Vision on up the hill is very dangerous and very steep and it's slippery, and the water current is really strong. Yeah, so it's hard for Laura to be climbed on the hill. So we hope we pray for Laura.
Nora Quareen, a 15-year-old with learning difficulties, disappeared on August 4, a day after checking into the resort with her London-based family. They believe she was abducted, but police have classified it as a missing person case. Officials narrowed the search area over the weekend as they believe that the teen cannot have strayed far from the resort and have also been playing a recording of her mother's voice through megaphones. On Sunday, police launched a new hotline number for the public to report any information about her. The schoolgirl went missing from the 12-acre Dusun resort, which lies near a forest reserve not far from Kuala Lumpur in the foothills of a mountain range. Her family says it would be extremely unusual for the reserved youngster to have wandered off on her own. Conservative Alejandro Giamete was elected as Guatemala's president on Sunday, defeating former First Lady Sandra Torres in a runoff.
Para mí fueron 12 años de querer llegar a ostentar este puesto y no por ambición, sino por una misión. Somos capaces de superar la desnutrición, de superar la violencia, la inseguridad. Juntos podemos lograr una Guatemala en donde podamos vivir en paz, en progreso, con desarrollo y con justicia. ¡Ganamos Guatemala! ¡Ganamos!
With the results being updated in real time on the court's website, the institution's president Julio Solorzano declared the result already irreversible. Giamete will succeed corruption-tainted outgoing President Jimmy Morales, who leaves office in January. He had polled almost 58.5% with a lead of 550,000 votes and only a few thousand left to count when the court declared him the victor. Giamete will be under immense pressure from the U.S. to implement a controversial migration pact that would allow Washington to send most Honduran and Salvadoran asylum seekers who pass through Guatemala back to the poor crime-stricken country. The two candidates had both avoided committing to strong positions on the U.S. deal. Corruption was the main issue leading up to the first round of elections in June, which Torres topped, but that has been superseded by the political scandal over the migration deal. And keep it here on Eagle News. We'll be right back. Stay tuned.
Ang bagyo at pagbaha ang dapat na paghandaan ng taong bayan, kundi maging ang lindol. Ayon sa PBOX, hindi alam kung kailan tatama ang isang malakas na lindol o the big one sa oras na gumalaw ang West Valley Fault na nasa Metro Manila. Kaya bago pa man ang lindol, alamin kung ang inyong mga lugar ay nasa dinaraanan o malapit sa active fault. Tiyakin na matibay ang pagkakagawa ng bahay o gusali. Itali ang mga mabibigat na kagamitan o kasangkapan sa dingding upang maiwasan ang pagkahulog. Ang mga babasagin, mga nakalalasong kemikal at mga bagay na madaling magliyab ay dapat na nakatago sa pinakailalim na bahagi ng mga istante at hindi madaling magalaw o matapon. Maging pamilyar sa mga tinatawag na exit routes, alamin kung nasaan ang fire extinguisher, first aid kit, alarmang pangligtas, at emergency exits at communication facilities. Maghanda ng emergency supply kit na naglalaman ng debateryang transistor, flashlight, first aid kit, tubig na mainom, candy, mga dilata at iba pang ready-to-eat na pagkain, pito at gas mask. At higit sa lahat, magsagawa at lumahok ng regular na earthquake drill. Tandaan, susi sa mabisang pagpaplano sa kalamidad ay ang kahandaan.
Hong Kong carrier Cathay Pacific warned staff on Monday that they could be fired for supporting illegal protests as the firm comes under pressure from Beijing over pro-democracy demonstrations. The flagship carrier stock plunged more than 4% in Hong Kong trade on Monday after Beijing imposed new rules banning airline staff involved in the Hong Kong protests from flights to or over the mainland. The airline canceled over 150 flights last week as a result of a strike linked to the unrest, and bookings have dropped since the protest movement began 10 weeks ago. Cathay has come under fire from authorities and residents in mainland China, who accuse it of allowing staff to participate in illegal activities. It has also been the subject of a boycott call on social media, fueled by articles from the powerful state media. A hashtag boycott Cathay Pacific thread on Weibo attracted more than 17 million views and 8,000 comments last week. Cathay has already suspended a pilot accused of rioting after allegedly participating in the protests. It said Saturday it had also fired 2 ground staff without specifying why. The airline is now subject to new regulations announced last week by Beijing's aviation regulator. They ban any staff member accused of involvement in illegal protests from working on those flights, with authorities warning planes could be prevented from landing if they fail to comply. Now, those rules came into effect from Sunday, and the regulator has also demanded Cathay submit a report before August 15 on planned measures to strengthen internal control and improve flight safety and security. The rules require the airline to submit manifests of staff working on flights going to the mainland or through its airspace. European stock markets dropped Monday as escalating protests in Hong Kong forced the closure of the financial hub's airport. London, Frankfurt, and Paris all slid into negative territory, approaching the halfway stage, having rallied at the open as news of the shutdown spread. All flights in and out of Hong Kong were cancelled late Monday after thousands of pro-democracy protesters flooded into the city's airport to denounce police violence. The abrupt shutdown came as the Chinese government signaled its rising anger at the protesters, denouncing some of the violent demonstrations as terrorism. Hong Kong's main shares index closed lower just as news of the shutdown emerged. South Korea put Japan into its own new export category as President Moon Jae-in called Tokyo's latest measures very serious, intensifying a trade war between the two neighbors and U.S. allies. Now, the move came after Seoul announced earlier this month it would remove Tokyo from its list of trusted trading partners, reciprocating an identical decision by Japan. Now, that followed Tokyo's imposition of tough restrictions on exports crucial to tech titans such as Samsung, following a series of South Korean court rulings ordering Japanese firms to pay for forced labor during World War II. The dispute has raised concerns over the potential implications for their security cooperation in the face of North Korean missile tests and the possible impact on global supply chains. Japan insists its latest measures were enforced on national security grounds. South Korea's list of trade partners is currently divided into 2 groups: those who are members of the world's top 4 export control agreements and those who are not. But Seoul's Trade Ministry said Monday it added a new category for countries that had signed the 4 pacts but operate an export control system that violates international norms. Japan is the only country in the new category. Saudi energy giant Aramco said its first-half net income for 2019 slipped nearly 12% to $46.9 billion, a first such disclosure that still reinforces its position as the world's most profitable company. It is the first time the company has published half-year financial results and comes after Aramco opened its secretive accounts for the first time in April, as it prepares to raise funds from the investors. Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman has previously said the IPO, which could potentially be the world's biggest stock sale, would take place in late 2020 or early 2021. The revenue drop amid lower crude prices was reported as speculation swirled that the secretive company was preparing for its much-delayed overseas stock listing, dubbed potentially the world's biggest. Eagle News will be right back. Stay tuned.
Why sharing our feelings is a good thing. The way a person feels inside is important. We can have good feelings or sometimes bad ones. It's a good thing to learn how to share our feelings, especially when we have a problem, so adults can help. Sharing our feelings through positive words will also help us avoid doing rude things to others. Sharing our feelings will also help us feel better inside, because when bad feelings are locked inside, they can make us feel sick. Lastly, if we have trouble saying our feelings out loud, we can write them down. What's important is to find someone who can help and understand.
Welcome back. In Japan, they also know how to put to good use the leftover or extra rice to create a quick but satisfying meal. Let's watch our Japan Eagle correspondent Dennis Liu and discover how to prepare and enjoy ochazuke. Dennis?
You may be familiar with green tea as a drink, but do you know that green tea can also be a kind of soup for your regular meal? Yes, thanks to this Japanese dish. This is ochazuke. The term is a combination of two words, ocha, meaning tea, and zuke, which means submerge. Ochazuke is a simple Japanese dish made by pouring green tea, dashi, or commonly known as soup stock or hot water over cooked rice with toppings like pickles, nori, the dried seaweed, salted salmon, and sesame seeds, among others. If you think it sounds weird, you're not alone, as we initially thought the same before we tried this unusual dish out. So we'll head over to a Japanese ochazuke restaurant and try this local dish out. Let's order this ochazuke and we'll show you how to eat it. As the meal set arrived on our table, we really had no idea how to eat it. We were wondering why we're given a teapot without any teacup, thinking the tea is only for drinking after eating the rice and the sashimi. When we asked for the cup, that's when we learned how to really eat this dish, after it was explained to us. Yes, we have to mix all these ingredients together with the rice and pour the green tea on the concoction. And the taste? Surprisingly, it's delicious. The green tea has a subtle taste, made more pleasant by the soup stock and other ingredients because of the mild saltiness they contributed to the soup. The whole dining encounter became a new and learning experience for us. Indeed, the Japanese food culture has never ever disappointed us. Enjoying Ochazuke here in Kunitachi, Tokyo, Japan. This is Dennis Liu for Eagle News International.
And I am 1 with 25.
It's Ochazuke. Okay. The 2019 Cinemalaya Philippine Independent Film Festival. It was held last night at the Cultural Center of the Philippines. Here's MJ Racadio, Arian Suwan, and MB Racadio for the report.
To the 15th Annual Cinemalaya Awards Ceremony, recognizing the best of indie films of Philippine cinema.
Cinemalaya is celebrating 15 years of the best of indie films and recognizing the upcoming and veteran directors from short to full-length feature films. In partnership with Cultural Center of the Philippines, plus in celebration of 100 years of Philippine cinema.
Another film that I really liked a lot is John Denver Trending, which is very interesting because it's so true. It's a real story based on a true story in the province. It's about the trending.
I think this year all the films are very good compared to last year. I've watched most of the films this year, so I think all the enders are really good this year.
Well, all the 10 full-length films basically are all outstanding, and the film that I like best is John Denver Trending.
Well, Direk Edong is a cool director. It's like we're just playing in the set. Kasi I've been working with him before sa Quick Change last 2013. Ever since naman talaga, Direk Edong is a cool director. Napakabuti niya. Para lang kami naglalaro.
The winner of Best Supporting Actor was Ricky Davao. Best Supporting Actress, Ella Cruz. Best Actress, Ruby Ruiz. Best Actor, Jansen Magpuso. Best Director goes to Eduardo Roy Jr. And Best Film was John Denver Trending.
Wow, ang hirap i-explain yung feeling. If you love something, if you love what you're doing, and you're given recognition, siyempre, hindi natatawaran yun. Priceless yun.
Overwhelming gratitude. Sobra po. Kahit marami naman nagsasabi sa akin, hoping for me to win it, iba pa rin pag narinig mo na yung pangalan. In fact, di ko na nga narinig yung pangalan ko. Nung narinig ko lang yung Autism, I knew that was our film. Thank you.
Nag-workshop po kami ng 4 days.
Your first award on your first acting role.
Masaya. Masaya po. Hindi ko ina-expect na mananalo ulit ako sa pangangalawang pagkakataon. Of course, masaya. Sobrang saya kasi binigay ulit and ayun, very thankful ako. And very thankful ako sa mga staff and crew at sa mga artista, lalo na sa mga artista ko, lalo na kay Royce, kay Kokoy, and kay Sir Ricky Davao.
It's a family. That makes a good.
So, Direk, how does it feel to win for the first time?
How does it feel?
Hindi ko tayo naman sasagot kasi ginawa lang namin yung pelikula as in saktong-sakto na yung pera namin. Kasi parang sabi ko, gawin na natin ito, gawin lang natin siya. Matapos mairaos lang natin at maganda, mairaos lang ng maayos, okay na kami.
If you would like to know the complete list of winner, log on to Eagle News Live on Facebook, and you can find behind-the-scene videos at the backstage at Cinemalaya 2019.
Wow, we just witnessed recognizing best of indie films here in the Philippines. So, what is your experience, Arian?
It was a great pleasure to be part of the Cinemalaya Awards night.
Wow, and what about you, MB?
Oh, wonderful. Best of the Philippine cinema.
Wow, you heard it, guys. And this is
Arian, MB,
and I am MJ Racadio, and we are always one with 25.
Thank you, guys, and that's it for tonight's broadcast. For everyone here on Eagle News International, I'm Alma Angeles, always one with 25. Good night.